Okay. Okay, I'm going to call this meeting to order at 4:30 exactly. Oh, I got a little message about recording. I'm going to do my first part, hoping that the others will come. Before we begin this meeting, we would like to honor and thank our community partners of the First Nations, the Anishinaabe. And when I'm going into the approval of the agenda, item 7C, which relates to the fire hall and fire truck, is being withdrawn from today's agenda, and it'll be brought back to council at a later date. I hope you've all also received your addendum. On item 5, couple agents will be in the meeting on item 5 relating to Sergeant Concrete. And in number 8, we have the addition of 8B and 8C, one about the K-12 school, and the other about Code of Conduct report from Councillor Moffat. So with those changes, could I have approval of the agenda? All in favor? Thank you. Is there any disclosure of pecuniary interest or similar nature thereof from anyone?
Because Rod is in, and we'll catch him with the disclosures.
Okay, and okay, Terry, is there any disclosure of pecuniary interest? We're on to item 3 of the agenda. No, I'm hearing none. We will proceed. Mr. Moffat, I'm sorry, you have your hand up?
Yeah, we can't see you. So is your video off? We can only hear you. Beside me, I don't know. Maybe you're on a.
I can see.
Okay.
I can see you.
Okay, I apologize. Sorry. Usually you're on my mainframe, so I'm not sure what happened.
Well, make sure you're on what's it called? Gallery view. You should be able to see me. Okay. So I call for an adoption of the minutes of the regular and closed session meetings of council held on June 7th, 2021. Could I have a motion from Councillor Moffat?
I so move that motion, Mayor.
And seconded from Councillor Coles.
I will second that motion.
Thank you. All in favor of approving the minutes? Thank you. And now I'm going to make a motion that the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Seguin does hereby adjourn the regular meeting to hold a public meeting for the following matter relating to zoning bylaw amendment application R 2021-0004-F for Sergeant. Could I have a motion from Councillor Osborne?
So moved, Mayor.
And seconded by Councillor Fellner.
I second that.
All in favor of moving into the public meeting? Thank you. Okay, I am going to welcome on screen, you see Gary Bell, who is working with us in our planning department, Mike McMillan from Sergeant. Hi, Mike. Ray Duhamel, who is consulting with Sergeant, and Bill Van Ruin, also consulting. So I will read the introduction to the public meeting, and then I will ask our staff person, Gary Bell, to review this, and then if there's questions and presentations to follow, we can proceed that. Council will now hold a public meeting for a proposed zoning bylaw amendment application. In accordance with the Planning Act, Council will consider all matters placed before it prior to passing a zoning bylaw. Anyone wishing to receive notice of the passing of a zoning bylaw amendment who has not submitted such a request in writing should provide their full name and address to the clerk. If a person or public body does not make oral submissions at a public meeting or make written submissions to the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Seguin, the person or public body is not entitled to appeal the decision of Council to the Ontario Land Tribunal, formerly the Local Planning Appeal Tribunal, and the person or public body may not be added as a party to the hearing of an appeal before the Ontario Land Tribunal, formerly the LPAT, unless in opinion of the tribunal, there are reasonable grounds to do so. The purpose of zoning bylaw amendment application R 2021-0004-F for the Sargent Company Limited is to rezone the land from highway commercial C3 zone to a highway commercial exception zone to permit a ready-mix plant, bulk fuel storage, and load rack, and a partially enclosed open storage area in addition to the permitted uses of highway commercial zone, and to allow variations from the highway commercial C3 zone standards. I now ask the clerk to state the method by which notice of the meeting was provided and the dates on which that notice was provided.
Notice of the public meeting was provided by posting the property and by regular mail on May 28th, 2021. Notice was therefore considered provided in accordance with the requirements of the Planning Act.
Has council received any correspondence with respect to this application?
No correspondence has been received.
Has anyone registered to speak in favor of or in opposition to this application?
Mike McMillan, representing the applicant. Bill Van Ryn of Tatum Engineering, agent for the applicant. Ray Duhamel of Jones Consulting Group Limited, agent for the applicant, have all registered to speak.
Okay, and I'm going to ask Gary, if you would, as our staff person, review it and give us your opinion. It's a very complete report in the agenda package, but we'll have Gary speak first.
Thank you, Mayor McDermott. I'm happy to be working for the Township of Seguin to help you with a number of development applications. I will not repeat any of the things that you've outlined, but it is a public meeting to add 3 uses to the highway commercial zone and to allow some variation in a number of provisions to actually permit the proposed development by the Sargent Company. You have the staff information report. It's a background report. It's not an opinion report. The site is 3.9 hectares, just under 10 acres on Cochrane Lake Road. Council, I know, is very familiar with it because you've already taken 2 actions relative to this proposed development. And it's for new uses on the northern portion of the site. There is a site plan development application being processed now by your administration for permitted highway commercial uses on the southern part of the site. And the proposal and the draft plan will be presented by Mr. Duhamel for the project. Those are my remarks.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Duhamel, would you like to, we have received your presentation in our addendum package today. So would you like to add to the comments?
Thank you, Your Worship and members of council. With your indulgence, can I share my screen and go through the presentation, or is that the typical format you'd follow? Thank you very much.
That's fine. I believe the clerk has enabled screen sharing. Yeah, there you go.
So can everyone see that okay?
Mm-hmm.
Great, thank you very much. Your Worship, members of council, staff, and any public that might be listening in. My name is Ray Duhamel with Jones Consulting. I'm presenting today on behalf of the Sargent Company Limited for rezoning, as you already outlined at the start of this meeting. Bill Van Ryn, who's the project engineer, Mike McMillan from the Sargent Company are available to answer any technical questions if they were to arise during this meeting. The lands, as you know, are located on 2 Cochrane Lake Road. If you can see my cursor, this is Cochrane Lake Road that traverses northerly from Osler Park Drive, which turns into Badger Road, as well as this is the off-ramp and on-ramp to Highway 400. The site itself that's owned by Sargent is in red. That land is about 3.32 hectares. And then the additional land in green, which the township has declared surplus on June 7th and is going through that process, brings the total area of the rezoning up to about 3.95 hectares. Frontage of the combined 2 pieces is 145 meters. Surrounding land uses, of course, Highway 400 is the major dominant feature in this area to the west and the south, and the on-ramps and off-ramps for same. Foley Center is located immediately west of the highway, and this is the Jolly Roger Inn just to the south and the east. This is the only aerial photographs I can find of the previous uses that are on the site from before Sargent's purchase. This site has been used as a staging area for a number of construction projects associated with the hydro lines on the property and for Highway 400. few pictures for you. I'm sure, as Gary had indicated, that you're familiar with the site. This is near the north end of the site, looking across the property from Highway 400, and then kitty corner to that. This would be on the other side from at Cochrane Lake Road intersection itself. Please note the median that I'm showing with my cursor right now. Some alterations to that median are proposed as part of the site plan approval process. So I just wanted to make a note of that. And the property, this is the portion that fronts onto Ostler Park Drive, but then the property falls as it traverses northerly. Some surrounding pictures. This is to the north. This is Cochrane Lake Road heading northbound. This is to the east, undeveloped land to the east. To the west, that's Foley Center in the background. And then immediately south, this is the on and off ramp from Highway 400. This is a site plan. I'll spend a few minutes on this plan just to explain what's all in front of you. But the lands in green here and here are the municipality lands that are declared surplus and are proposed to be incorporated into the site plan, and of course are part of this rezoning. The lands in blue are Ministry of Transportation lands that, although not essential to the operation of the site, they provide some additional convenience and flexibility for truck movement. During our pre-consultation with the Ministry of Transportation, they had noted that they would consider use of their lands, but they wanted to make sure that the site plan would function without their lands in the event that they ever needed them. And the site plan itself has demonstrated that vehicles and heavy trucks and fire trucks, for example, can traverse the site without using that blue area. The light green is landscaped area, and that's one of the special provisions I'll be speaking to in a few minutes. And overall, if you can follow my cursor, and hopefully you can see it clearly enough, and access is proposed off of Cochrane Lake Road. When Mr. Bell referred to the south half of the site, it's effectively this portion of the site. And that's the area where the existing permitted uses under your C3 zoning, such as a convenience store, a takeout restaurant, and a commercial gas station called a card lock, would be permitted. The access to this for passenger vehicles would come into the parking lot in this location to access the convenience store and the restaurant. Passenger vehicles and commercial trucks can access the card lock through the access off of Cochrane in this vicinity. And there's also EV charging stations proposed along Highway 400 in this location. And so traffic can flow through, or there's truck parking. There's oversized B-train truck parking here, and then regular truck parking along this edge here. Now, the northern part of the site is what would contain, if council were so inclined to approve the bylaw amendment before you, a ready mix plant or a concrete plant. That's where concrete is manufactured. There's also a washout area. There's a partially enclosed aggregate area, and there's additional parking along here for concrete trucks as well as other vehicles and employee parking. More employee parking along this edge. And so trucks can either come in along the back or come in along this line here to access this area. And this will be the future bulk fuel storage and fuel depot. So this is where commercial sale of bulk fuels could occur. Mr. Bell also referenced a site plan application. For clarity, I've provided it, although it's not subject to this public meeting. It is helpful, I think, to explain that a proposed site plan application for the south portion of the site, again, that's the convenience store, takeout restaurant, and the commercial card lock, and the fuel associated with that is under your staff's review right now. The northern portion of the site, if council approves the rezoning, a second site plan application would be filed to permit the other uses that I've just gone through. There is a lot of technical work that has been undertaken in support of the rezoning application. There's also detailed landscaping plans and detailed engineering plans and technical reports that have been submitted in support of the current site plan application. And all that information is available at the municipal offices for review. Some of the information, such as the functional servicing report, planning report, traffic report, environmental impact study, are all being peer reviewed, and some comments have already been starting to come back from those from Mr. Bell. Very briefly, I'll touch on, in my opinion, this application is consistent with the provincial policy statement and it conforms to the growth plan for Northern Ontario. Both of these documents, there's a variety of policy supports in these documents, but both of them strongly support economic development and the creation of jobs and investment in communities. And in my opinion, this application does exactly that for the township. This is the township's official plan. I'm sure you've seen this many times. The property is in red, and the area that it's designated is called rural and resource area. You'll see in white. Foley Center is located to the west across the highway. And I've shown you at the bottom of this slide, there's a number of related uses that would be permitted on the lands according to the official plan. So small scale commercial and industrial, sand and gravel extraction, and light industrial uses are permitted through rezoning. Those are some of the relevant examples I could provide you from the permitted uses in the official plan. In my opinion, this application conforms to the policies of your official plan. Now, this is the heart of the application, is the zoning, your worship, members of council. The lands are currently zone C3, and if you can follow my cursor, you'll see there's a large portion of lands north and east that are already zone C3, as are lands zoned to the south and east in this location are zone C3. The purpose of the application before you, as was read out by Mr. Bell, is to add 3 additional permitted uses. That's the concrete batching plant, a partially enclosed open storage area, and a bulk fuel storage facility and load rack that allows for commercial sale. There are also 2 special provisions that are requested. The first is relating to height. The current zoning bylaw permits 10.5 meters in height. The request is to permit the concrete plant itself to be at 12 meters and the silo for the plant to be at 18 meters. And then pending staff and Mr. Bell's review of the site plan application and the concept plan and a review of the landscape area proposed, there may be a request for a reduction in the landscape area. Very simply, all of the lands are proposed to be rezoned from the current C3 category, which is highway commercial, to this special highway commercial with special provisions. And I have a few pictures just to illustrate the proposed use. This is the concrete batching facility, the ready mix plant. You can see the height, which we're requesting of 12 meters, and then the silo would be up to 18 meters in height. This is the partially enclosed open storage area. And this is where aggregate material is stored. And here's the loading rack and the bulk fuel storage so trucks can come up, drive in, fuel up, and then deliver commercially throughout the area. And in summary, it's my opinion that the application is consistent with the provincial policy statement and conforms to both the growth plan and the official plan. The application is to rezone the lands from C3 highway commercial to commercial exception, which would permit a concrete batching plant, a partially enclosed open storage area, and the bulk storage facility and load rack. A height request of 12 meters for the plant and 18 meters for the silo is being requested, and there may be a request for a reduction in landscape area subject to staff and Mr. Bell's review. The application offers economic development in the form of new jobs and investment in your community. As noted, there is a site plan application in process for the current permitted uses under the highway commercial zone, and a second application for site plan approval would be submitted in the event that council were to approve the application for rezoning to permit the additional uses. And your worship, members of council, we are available to answer any questions that you may have, and I will stop sharing.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Moffat, you have your hand up?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Just two questions, Ray. I noticed that you've done a traffic study and wanted to find out at what point would traffic lights may be required at that intersection due to the increased traffic coming off of both the 400 as well as yourself and coming out of Badger Road, because it's a bit of a blind corner, and sometimes cars come around the corner from the golf course at a little bit more than required speed, and with a cement truck or something moving at a slow pace around the corner, what would the MTO require for lights?
I will ask Bill to respond to that if that's okay, Councillor Moffat, through your worship. I believe the study concluded there were no lights required, but Bill, you may have been able to provide some insight into how much more volume would be permitted before lights would be required. Can you clarify?
And through you, Madam Mayor, if I may, a current analysis based on the site plan is showing no traffic signals required. The off ramps and Osler Park Drive are going to operate at a level of service B. So that's the second highest level of service under the traffic guidelines. And that study goes out with projected increases for background growth for 20 years. So for at least the next 20 years with background growth, there would be no need for signals at that intersection. We have looked at the available site distances at Cochrane Lake Road and Osler Park Drive and fully understand your point. If you're speeding from Badger, moving towards the highway, site distance might become an issue, but if you're traveling at the safe posted speed, then the sight lines are met.
Thank you. Just one other follow-up, not of the same vein as timelines. When do we, if everything goes according to plan, when do we see things up and running? Is there a timeline that you may be able to share?
I can speak to that, Madam Mayor. Mike McMillan with the Sargent Company. We're currently set up beside Crump on Fowler Drive. It's actually a pretty good setup, and we're okay there for 2 years. We have an arrangement for the next 2 years in case this drags on. But we are pretty eager to get our ready mix plant set up there as soon as possible. So certainly within the next 18 months, we'd like to have a concrete plant erected there.
Great.
Is that a good enough answer, Councillor Moffat?
No, that's awesome. I appreciate the fact that we'd like to, I don't know, I'd like to get this moving. It's in my ward, so
Okay.
I'm keen to see this up and running. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Osborne.
Thank you, Mayor. Through you to Mr. Duhamel, I believe, Jones. Question on, you mentioned there's two different operations here, the bulk plant, concrete plant, and then the retail component. Am I led to believe the retail component is going ahead?
I will let them, your worship, through you to Councillor Osborne, Mike McMillan can provide some additional information. We have submitted an application for site plan approval for the retail component that's permitted by your current C3 zoning, the highway commercial zoning. That would include the takeout restaurant, the cardlock facility, and the convenience store. Mr. McMillan can provide context on when he would like to see that portion of the site running.
Sure. We're just in the process of getting quotes out for blasting and that type of work. As far as the retail element itself, that's the restaurant and the convenience store. That's not in our scope of business. So we would probably build that building as we've done in Barrie with the Wendy's and a Tim Hortons, and then we would lease that out to a company that does a better job of managing convenience stores and restaurants than we would. And then, but in terms of phasing at this, a year ago, I would have said different, but right now I'm thinking that the big push is for the ready mix plant to go forward, and that the fuel station, we're noticing costs coming in very, very high right now just because of how crazy the building environment is. So there may be some savings depending on when we phase this in. So I think probably the ready mix plant first, and then the fuel and retail operation.
Okay, thank you. And another question, Mayor. You mentioned that, so that would be a secondary site plan agreement once you get to that point, correct? Mr. McMillan?
So I believe Ray might be able to explain this one a little better, right?
I'm just wondering if today we're zoning for both.
So I believe that all of the permitted uses of the fuel station, the restaurant, they're already permitted under the existing C3.
Okay.
So don't think we require.
Can I ask Gary to reply to why the two site plans are separate? From a staff point of view, you can see it. Gary, would you mind
Sure.
clarifying that?
Certainly, Mayor and Council. Mr. Duhamel showed you a slide of the site plan application, and I would suggest it might be useful, Ray, if you could get ready to pull that back, because that's an application for development by Sargent right now, and it's under process by your administration for development approval of what you see in front of you on the screen. It's essentially the southern 50 or so percentage of the site. Each of the uses proposed in that area is now permitted by the highway commercial zone. And it is really a site plan approval working through the technical matters to the satisfaction of the agencies and your staff and yourselves for that development.
So we are then, Gary, looking at the whole development at this point, the whole property.
Mayor McDermott and Councillor, you're looking at the whole property relative to the proposed zoning bylaw amendment,
Yes.
which is one zone on the whole property.
Okay.
You're looking at a site plan development on only a portion of the property right now.
Okay. I have Mayor, if I may, I have two more questions before I conclude.
Okay.
The access to the restaurant, takeout restaurant, convenience store area would come off Cochrane Lake Road as well, but a separate road from the entrance to the Sargent operation?
Your worship, through to Councillor Osborne, that's correct. If you can see where my cursor is,
I
you're
see
making
it.
a left-hand turn off of Cochrane in. This is the passenger access.
Right, I understand. What I'm seeing though is an island in the way of that left-hand turn.
No, the island is proposed to be reduced in size, so which provides the full turning movement to come in.
All right.
And direct traffic into the passenger parking area. Then to make up grade, it comes around this area for passenger vehicles and commercial vehicles to access the card lot facility. So one of the challenges on this site is the change in grade as it drops significantly down Cochrane Lake Road. So if there's specific technical answer, Bill, that I'm missing as part of this explanation, please contribute where you can. But I think Mr. Van Ryn is using this area to help transition the grade to the next access for the card lock. But Mr. Van Ryn, could you assist in clarifying if I've explained that correctly?
Ray, that was perfect. Really what we've got through you, Madam Mayor, is the grade on Cochrane Lake Road. We've got three essentially entrances coming in, but they are all on one shared throat. And that island is really separating between the passenger vehicle and the heavy truck further down the hill.
Okay, thank you for that. And the last question regarding this bulk plant, you mentioned tankers. Is this a fuel bulk plant, gasoline or oil, or what will be in the bulk plant tanks at the rack?
I can speak to that, Councillor Osborne. First of all, if I can address the last question you had, just to tie it up. Sure. The reason this site plan was submitted prior to our full site plan is that there was this rezoning matter that had to happen. So we wanted to get this site plan application approved so that we could begin earthworks and that type of work in advance of we weren't sure how long the rezoning approvals would take. As it stands now, it's hard to say what'll happen first, but that was our thinking. So just to explain why you're seeing this one without the ready mix plant. Right. And then to your second question, this bulk plant will be have diesel fuel, home heating furnace oil, and there's also in the future we're planning to put a propane residential propane facility, and these tanks also double as, so they're bulk fuel for our delivery trucks, but they're also the holding tanks for the card lock that serves the fuel station.
Thank you. And lastly, what are the containment measures around the bulk plant area for the fuels? I've worked at a bulk plant and I know they're necessary.
Yeah. So I'm not an expert in that,
I'm talking for spills. Sorry to interrupt.
yeah, no problem. There's a dike system required by the TSSA. I'm not the best person in my company to speak about this. Our field petroleum manager is very well versed in this. But if you look at one of our typical sites like in Barrie or in Aurelia, there's a full dike system that I believe is designed in the event of a leak or of a massive spill. It would contain the entire tank in the dike system. I could certainly make a note and send some more details on that to you, Councillor Osborne, but it is regulated, highly regulated by the TSSA, and they're the sort of overseeing body that determine what safety measures we need to comply with.
Yeah, okay, that sounds good. And you're aware you're entering here environmental first township, so it's very important to us. I look forward to the project and the employment that will come with it. I think it's great for our region in total. And I, like Daryl Moffat, wish you well.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. I see no further questions from council, but we're delighted to have Sergeant coming to Seguin, and I think working with Mr. Bell, we will do our utmost to expedite everything we can. So I will now close the public meeting and reconvene our regular meeting.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much for all your information and your comprehensive report. The rezoning will come back to council, I believe. Is that correct?
There'll be a further staff report, yes.
Further staff report about the rezoning, and it'll be coming from Mr. Bell. So I have a motion that the public meeting held for the following matter is hereby closed, and the regular meeting is hereby reconvened. The public meeting was held for the zoning bylaw amendment application number R 2021-0004-F for Sergeant. Could I have a motion from Councillor Collins? Close the public meeting.
I so move that motion, Mayor. Thank you.
And seconded by Councillor Finson.
I second that.
All in favor? Thank you very much. Thank you to Mr.
Thank you, everyone.
Ray.
Thank you. Take care.
Everybody, thank you.
Good night.
We're delighted to have you. And thank you for picking the Seguin. Okay, we are moving now to the Shore Road and Concession Road allowances. You have a comprehensive report from Lauren Irvine in your package. Lauren, could you speak to this a little bit for the Watson family?
Certainly, thank you, Your Worship. The matter before you is an application to purchase the concession road allowance abutting the applicant's lands at 19 Lumberjack Trail. This is just an information report. However, if council directs staff to proceed with processing the application, staff will set a future public meeting date. Thank you.
I think it's pretty standard, isn't it, Lauren, that basically the Shore Road allowance was set years ago and the road doesn't go there now. Is that correct?
Yes, you're correct, Your Worship. So the existing private road actually ends at the subject land, so 19 Lumberjack Trail. The portion beyond that, it's all wooded, it's all forested.
Thank you very much. Does council have any questions for Lauren? Okay, and we proceed to the Shore Road allowance for. Okay, council will now consider the following Shore Road allowance application. Shore Road allowance application RAS 2020-0009F for Sleep, bylaw number 2021-042. Has anyone registered to speak to this application?
No one has registered to speak to this application.
Have there been any written objections received?
No written objections have been received.
And does council have any questions on it? Pretty straightforward. Sorry. So I have a motion that bylaw number 2021-042, being a bylaw to close, stop up, and sell a portion of the original shore road allowance, application number RAS 2020-0009-F for sleep, is hereby deemed to have read a first, second, and third time and passed by council. Could I have a motion from Councillor Moffat?
I so move, Mayor.
Thank you. And seconded by Councillor Cole.
I will second that.
All in favor? Thank you very much, and that's carried. So we move into staff reports. So I have a motion that the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Seguin does hereby the staff report as presented on the agenda for June 21st, 2021 meeting of Council. Do I need to read this list? No, but I do want to draw your attention to the fact that item 7C has been removed from this. Drop it out. So could I have a motion from Councillor Osborne?
So moved, Mayor.
Thank you. Seconded by Councillor Fellner.
I'll second that, Mayor.
All in favor of moving into the staff report? Thank you. So I have a motion that bylaw number 2021-050, being a bylaw to enter into a commercial lease agreement between Mike Beasley and the Corporation of the Township of Seguin for facilities located on Plan 163, Part Lot 18, Village of Rosso, known as 1142 Highway 141, is hereby deemed to have been read a first, second, and third time and passed by council. Could I have a motion from Councillor Collins?
I so move that motion, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. And seconded by Councillor Simpson.
I second that.
And I'm going to ask Michelle to speak to it if anyone has any questions.
No.
Oh, Councillor Cole.
Yeah, just a quick question. I no problem with the report at all. I'm just curious about our practice when it comes to leasing. Do we look at current market leases? And because I noticed this is the same as it was previously, so I'm just curious whether we look at whether leasing rates have changed and whether we're looking at the potential for additional revenue, or whether this was felt to be fair at this time.
We do look at the leases in the area. Right now, it's a little hard to do that, just because, you know, Mike hasn't been open for so long. So right now what we're trying to do is help him out, you know, keep him as a good tenant. And when the lease comes up in another couple of years, we'll probably have a look at the rate again.
Yeah, no, I think this is very fair. I'm not at all concerned about the fact that we're giving him the same rate. I just wondered what our policy was, that's all. Thanks.
Thanks, Michelle. We have a motion on the floor. All in favor of renewing the lease? Right. Thank you. And that is carried. And I have a motion that as per recommendation of staff report CS-FC 2021-004, Council of the Corporation of the Township of Seguin does hereby award RFP number 2021-012 to Resurface Corporation for one 2021 Olympia Millennium E ice resurfacing machine in the amount of $128,000 plus HST. And that pursuant to section 6.10 surplus or obsolete equipment or supplies of bylaw number 2011-057, being a bylaw governing procurement policies and procedures, Council of the Corporation of the Township of Seguin does hereby declare the 2014 Olympia Millennium as surplus and approve the trade-in equipment to Resurface Corporation in the amount of $19,000. Could I have a motion from Councillor Moffat?
I so move that motion, Mayor.
And seconded by Councillor Cole.
I will second that motion.
And I'm gonna ask Dominique to speak to this, please.
Thank you, and good afternoon, Mayor and Council. I'd just like to start by clarifying a statement within the report on page 64 of the council package, or page 3 of the report. It is stated that the Engo Wolf electric ice resurfacer would require a different laser level system and additional cost. And while the Engo model does require a different laser level system, the cost is included in the quote received. So there is no additional cost for the laser leveler, whether we purchase from Olympia or whether we purchase from Engo. So I just wanted to clarify that. So during our 2021 budget considerations, staff recommended and council approved that Seguin undertake the transition to a fully battery electric ice resurfacer. This will help Seguin transition to a more environmentally friendly township, and it does take care of those potentially harmful fumes that are in the arena. We'll definitely cut down on our greenhouse gas emissions, and I think it's a huge positive step towards achieving some of our environmental goals. I am recommending that the purchase be the Olympia Millennium E, despite it being approximately $6,000 cost difference between the Engo. In part, surrounding municipalities, and this includes Seguin, but Bracebridge, Perry Sound, Huntsville, Gravenhurst, Muskoka Lakes, Lake of Bays, just to name a few, are all using the Olympia model with excellent results. Due to the fact that we use the same machine, we do, save on shipping in terms of sharpening blades, things like that. We work together with our neighboring municipalities, which is something that has been, really well received over the past years and does cut down on costs. We're less familiar with the Engo, but it's really difficult decision, I know, because of the cost difference. The Bracebridge and Gravenhurst now have the electric resurfacer as well, and I've spoken to both of those municipalities, and they are quite happy with the result with no concerns. So if council has any questions, I'm happy to try and answer them.
Okay, we have a question from Councillor Osborne.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. So the difference is that $7,000 as a percentage. How much percentage more is that bid? 7 versus 128?
Sorry, could you repeat the question, Councillor?
What percentage difference is there between the bids? The 7,000, what does it represent percentage-wise?
Oh, sorry. Okay, so what the bid from Olympia was 128, and the
Yes,
bid from
I know that. Yep,
Engo is 121.
I know that.
0.6,
What I'm asking is,
0.6%.
thank you, Mayor. 0.6, thank you. Dominic, you mentioned that there's potential harmful gases emitted by these propane, I think, that we've been using since the arena was built. Was that ever a concern before? Or?
No, we have the proper fans and things like that in the arena that take care of that, but that's also a savings we look at, because with an electric, we don't have to run those high-powered fans. So we're actually saving on electricity as well.
Okay, understood. Seems like not that long ago we got this new Olympia. What was the lifespan of the previous one, or what is the typical lifespan? This one's 7 years old that we're using currently?
Yes, we actually, go ahead, sorry.
What was the span of the one prior when we replaced it?
We actually have been going with our vehicle replacement strategy, which is the 7 years. So we've been doing that for a number of years now. And that's why we get a really good resale value on the current model.
All right, so this transition does dovetail with our normal replacement then?
It does, yes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Are there any further questions? I think it's a great report and comprehensive. So I have a motion on the floor. All in favor of approving the purchase of the Olympia Millennium E? Thank you.
Batteries included?
Yes, according to Dominique. Okay, I have a motion that the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Seguin does hereby adopt the Clean Equipment Protocol for Industry attached to this resolution as Schedule A. Could I have a motion from Councillor Osborne
So moved, Mayor.
and seconded by Councillor Fellner?
I'll second that.
And I'm going to ask Tom to speak to this. Tom, there he is.
Hi,
On the floor, yep.
this is the Clean Equipment Protocol, correct?
Yes.
So as you're aware, Seguin has 186 lakes and countless wetlands. I'm not sure if anyone's done a count on that yet. This is here to, we move a lot of equipment from site to site, not just Seguin, but contractors. And I think it's very imperative that we actually have something in place that we can include on tenders or a reference on building permits. I've ran it by Dominique and Curtis in the building department, brought them up to speed, and they were inclined as well to put forward this sort of policy that we can just simply reference and just get the knowledge of invasive species, particularly Phragmites is a big concern. Drive 50 hours or 50 minutes south just in Port Severn, and it's an absolute travesty what's happening in that vicinity, and it's coming north. And we want to be able to do something for our environment and put it out there in the educational sense that, hey, it does transfer through equipment. So thank you, Mayor and Council, for letting me speak.
I see a question from Councillor Moffat.
Thank you, Mayor. Once this policy or if this policy is adopted, which I expect it will be, does staff have to go through some training or something in order to be able to clean the vehicles, or what would be next steps with regards to that, Tom?
Great question. So we're going to do a tailgate talk, and I'm going to post everything up on all of our shops. Do some website education as well, some Facebook posts, Facebook, Twitter, and simply have a tailgate talk and just really hone in on how important this policy is. I'm in the belief that everyone in the Public Works Department will be on board, because they also understand how important this will be, because they know how invasive and how crazy it can get quickly. So they'll understand and we'll educate them as well, and what to look for as well. So lots of pictures.
Just as a follow-up, I guess I'm looking over to Councillor Fellner, and one of the things that you and I both ride are snowmobiles and ATVs, and I'm wondering if this is something that can be shared with Park to Park as part of their, education and awareness with regards to trail passes and stuff like that. So I'll leave that there, and I know he's got his hand up, so maybe Councillor Fellner is going to speak on the same thing. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Fellner.
Thank you, Mayor. No, not so much a question, Tom, but just thank you for taking this initiative to get this policy out. I think it's one it's badly needed. It's pretty much become standard policy in most provincial tenders. It's a serious problem, but it's one that can be controlled with simple house cleaning. So again, I applaud you for your effort.
Thank you.
Good report. Thank you.
Thank you. I just have a question that Councillor Moffat alluded to. We get people to clean their boats for zebra mussels and stuff, but we got all kinds of ATVs visiting from all over the place. Is there any policy in place for that?
Well,
There's not, but Councillor Fellner maybe will speak
and
to
Councillor Fellner is Park to Park. I'm just curious, really, should we be putting something in place?
Well, I guess if they confine their activities to the trail system, we hopefully don't have any weeds out there. After all the good maintenance that's been going on, but yeah, I think that the problem, like an ATV's got tires and they don't carry and track as bad as some of the other equipment that's, you can correct me if I'm wrong, Tom, but with the steel tracks, it tends to cut them off and trap them and carry them, farther. So it would, I think it's probably more of an issue with equipment than although trucks and,
Yeah.
especially would need to be washed. But I don't know how you can sort of get someone to wash their ATV after they, before they get it on the trailer and come out of the area. I just don't know how you
Chief
do that.
Administrative Officer wants to weigh in here.
I think fundamentally, Your Worship, members of council, what we really want to do is implement this protocol with construction activities, but also raise awareness, not just for our contractors and our staff, but throughout the community, including the trail users, that perhaps if an ATV rider was in an area where they knew what Phragmites was, as an example, they would understand what options they would have to ensure they prevent the tracking and transport of the seeds. So I think it's an awareness campaign that we really want to push out into the community, but in addition to that of some policy that directs our contractors and our own staff on how we best manage our equipment, and the clean equipment protocol is a fantastic step in the right direction.
Yeah, I agree, and maybe it's a project for our new communications person to raise some of this awareness. So, we have a motion on the floor. All in favor? Thank you. This is a great initiative, Tom, and thanks for taking the lead on it.
Thank you.
Okay, we're on item 8, and I'll ask Councillor Collins to speak to this. He asked for it to be put on the agenda about affordable housing in conjunction with DSAP.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Over the years, as being a board member of DSAP, I became very, very passionate and concerned with our housing availability in our area. And over the years, we've seen the provincial government and the federal government as well concerned about affordable housing, especially in the north. And I simply, in this particular case, have taken this upon myself, this initiative, to simply form a subcommittee or committee to expand and support housing in our area. I've already spoken to Tammy McKenzie, and she's on board. She was actually quite pleased that Seguin is thinking about this, and she said that the housing has become a real issue in our area, and the board seems to be a little bit complacent about coming up with new ideas and so on. So she was glad that this was in the soup. And I spoke with Howard Wesley as well, because you have to have the stakeholders, the right stakeholders together on the same committee. So I do have DSAB support. I do have a rep from DSAB to support this this subcommittee. They will sit on this committee. I've got the support from Perry Sound Affordable Housing and Perry Sound Nonprofit as well. I have their support moving forward. So basically, I guess I would like to maybe, if I have to, maybe draw up a resolution. I don't know that for sure, but I was thinking to a resolution to strike a joint subcommittee, like I said, with Seguin, with District of Perry Sound Social Services, Perry Sound Affordable Housing, and Perry Sound Nonprofit with a shared mandate. This would be a shared mandate that reflects the goals and the ambitions that will be set out in the housing component of DSAB's new strategic plan. So I do have the support of the right stakeholders. So I would like to know if this commission or this commission could be formed, a subcommittee could be formed.
I'm going to turn over to the clerk a little bit to
Yeah.
just ask the question how we do it. I think it's a good idea. I think you're talking specifically about affordable housing for the disadvantaged.
Affordable housing for everyone and the disadvantaged. So it's you have to share both. That's it. That's what DSAB does.
Okay.
And they have the money to support this, according to what the CAO has told me. So.
Okay. Well, let's turn it over to Craig to tell us how we do it.
Just from hearing what Councillor Collins has said, I'm thinking that this group of people probably want to get together, or DSAB, and come up with a mandate in terms of reference for this committee. And that would be the first resolution, is for the parties to adopt the terms of reference and then appoint their representatives. I'm sort of thinking from this, because it is a DSAB, one of their mandates, that they're probably and their funding, that they're probably the ones best to draft that and prepare that proposed terms of reference. And I'll call it a joint committee of all those different parties.
Councillor Collins, is that something you could take back to Tammy and say with?
Oh, absolutely. Yes,
Yeah,
yes,
with
yes.
the terms of reference, that we could have a resolution that endorsed it and appointed people to it.
Yes, because you see this, I want it to be in their, well, it will be in their new strategic plan, and that's what's going on there right now. That's what they're developing now, is a strategic plan. So yes, I can take that back. And I know that there's other board members on other townships that are also passionate about affordable housing as well, moving the yardsticks forward in this. So I can do that. I will get a term of reference. I will get it developed, and as soon as that is done, are you telling me that that I have to get form a joint committee too as well before I come back to you, Craig, or can I just, should the joint committee be formed as well?
Through you, Mayor.
Go ahead.
No, I don't believe so, Councillor Collins. I think that if
Okay.
DSAB, if you speak with DSAB,
Yep.
One of the things they may look at is it being their committee with representatives, somebody from
Mhm.
Seguin, somebody from the nonprofit. That may be how they wish to set it up.
Okay.
And which
Okay,
means then
yeah.
it's back to us just to appoint someone to that committee once
Mhm.
it's already established.
Mhm.
But that can happen with your discussions with DSAB about whether they want to actually sort of take that committee and create it and then ask for representatives or propose.
Okay. Okay, that sounds.
The terms of reference could include committee membership recommendations, and then that would come back to each council potentially.
Yes, because I'm actually more concerned with the amount of levied taxes that we contribute to DSAB, the 1.4 million, and it would be nice to know where a chunk of that can be directed to housing, for an example, because we seem to write a check every year and we say nothing. So it would be nice to have some kind of a direction where this money can be spent. And that's another reason why this is important as well.
Okay, so I think
All right.
when you're ready, and you can come back through the clerk.
Absolutely, will do.
Okay.
Thank you.
The next piece is, thank you, is 8B, which is in your addendum. So I have a motion from Councillor Fellner. Could I have a motion from you?
So moved.
Thank you. And seconded by Councillor Collins.
I'll second that, Mayor. Thank you.
Okay, and I'm just gonna give you a little bit of background. I couldn't tell if any of you were on the call with the architect and the school board last week. I participated in it, but it was kind of like a webinar, so you couldn't see who was there. And I was quite shocked that the new, quote, mega school, which is K-12, was being referred to by the architect as a boutique school. The first day it opened, it was to have 5 portables, and they were predicting a decrease in enrollment. They're moving from 3 gyms to 1, from the current high school size to a third of the size, even though it's going to be K-12. And following that meeting, many parents spoke up, and these particularly were parents who were on what they call the Accommodation Review Committee in the past, which was long ago. So the resolution I'm going to read has come to all the councils. Just as background too, if you're in the neighborhood of the high school tomorrow at noon, there will be a parental demonstration against what is being recommended. So I'm going to read the resolution we have in front of us. Whereas our schools are a vital part of the educational, social, and economic development that is integral to the West Parry Sound area municipalities. And whereas an Accommodation Review Committee, called ARC, was established in 2013 to review Nobel and New McDougall elementary schools. And whereas Near North District School Board included the Parry Sound High School within the same ARC as Nobel and McDougall elementary schools. And whereas in 2018, the Ministry of Education put a moratorium on the closing of any schools in the province of Ontario. Excuse me. And whereas the moratorium by the province, based on an outdated Accommodation Review Committee, the Near North District School Board has announced the closure of Nobel and McDougall elementary schools for a junior kindergarten to grade 12 mega school at the location of the current Parry Sound High School. And whereas the preliminary design plans for a new mega school does not reflect the growth for the West Parry Sound area over the past 8 years. And whereas the ratepayers of West Parry Sound contribute over $15 million annually towards local education. And whereas the Near North District School Board has not communicated adequately with the municipal government and the residents in which the schools are located. And whereas the elementary students and their parents from the West Parry Sound area deserve to have their voices heard in respect to the location and design of a new mega school. Now therefore be it resolved that the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Seguin requests that the Near North District School Board convene a new Accommodation Review Committee for the junior kindergarten to grade 12 mega school. And further, that an independent study of enrollment and population figures be completed prior to the finalization of the JK to 12 mega school. And further, that this resolution be forwarded to the West Parry Sound municipalities, Schwanica First Nation, Wakasing First Nation, Henley First Inlet First Nation, Magnetawan First Nation, Moose Deer Point First Nation, the Near North District School Board, the Honourable Doug Ford, Premier of Ontario, the Honourable Stephen Lecce, Minister of Education, Parry Sound Muskoka MP Scott Aitchison, and Parry Sound Muskoka MPP Norm Miller. Councillor Moffat.
I'll let you finish, Mayor. I just had a comment, so.
Oh, no, the only thing that to finish is really, the vote. So go ahead.
Oh, okay. I was just gonna say there's some threads in here with regards to the wellness center that we may want to consider. That was all. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Osborne?
Thank you, Mayor. This is referred to as a mega school, or as you also said, boutique. Is the Near North Board serious about building a new school that would encompass portables right at the outset? Is that their plan?
That's what was presented last Thursday, and they called their portables hexapods, but under any other definition, it's portables, and they're gonna need more portables if we continue to grow the way we are. But yes, that's what was presented, and that's why everybody's up in arms, that the day the school opens.
Yeah, I mean, why would you plan a new school if there was a portable component right at the outset? Portables are usually a patch up when a school has an enrollment beyond its means, and they're added on just as a nice to have, but most teachers and students don't like them. I know that from experience. I also heard from that meeting that it appears the Near North Board is underestimating the enrollment in the future in the next 10, 20 years. Are they doing that to save cash? Is it all about money in your estimation? This portables and, oh, it's only 800 students, not 1,000. Is this all about dollars and cents?
I can't be an expert on it, but what I observed in the meeting and what I've heard from some parents is that the dollar figure for the school was actually set aside 4 or 5 years ago, and it hasn't increased. And that they're using an old budget to build something that they committed to. But they never consulted with any of the municipalities that we know of on our growth plan. We don't know where they got their population figures. If you read today's paper, the parental group issued their population numbers publicly, which are significantly bigger than what the Near North Board presented last Thursday. So I'm not the expert, I wasn't around in 2014, but there seems to have been a total lack of communication and sharing of information.
Quick question for Michelle through you, Mayor. Michelle, what percentage of our ratepayers' taxes are school tax? Ballpark.
2021 school taxes raised in Seguin were 5.8 million. Of that 5.8 million, approximately 5 million is Near North.
Okay, and they don't consult with the townships. Isn't that nice? Thank you.
Welcome.
So we have a resolution on the table. All in favor, and then we will forward it to the powers that be. Thank you, and I encourage you to watch the news. I think the parental groups are getting very organized, and they deserve to be heard. And now we have 8C, which is a report from Councillor Moffat. As you may recall, he agreed to be our representative on a Code of Conduct Review Committee. Councillor Moffat.
Thank you, Mayor. This, for the most part, is for information. I attended a telephone conference call, not a Zoom meeting, not a Teams. It was actually a conference call, so it was a little bit more of a challenge because there was a certain protocol that everyone had to remember. Really, you can see in the package, all we did was just go through the questions 1, 2, 3, and 4. And anyone that was in attendance were able to make their comments. It was interesting. It was kind of I would say a 50-50 split. A number of people that attended said we need the rules tighter, stronger, more discipline, this and that. And another group said, show me the facts to tell me that there's a problem. And if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Mayor Comrie from Whitestone participated. He kind of kicked that off with that kind of comment, and I kind of agreed, hopped on and said, yeah, I think, I don't know I haven't seen anything. So there was a couple of things though that the AMO recommendations, people made some comments that said, it's hard to start from a negative when we should be starting from a positive, and the four bullet points in question 2 are really more from a negative point of view. So they thought that was a little bit of a challenge. People raised the fact that the integrity commissioner has sort of different roles and responsibilities across the province, and they thought that should be standardized and dealt with. A lot of people mentioned some additional training that could be had. So at the end of the day, they have asked us if we would like to submit a formal submission by July 15th. And, they were taking that as part of the consultation as well as the information they gathered last week at the meeting. So I don't know that we, need to commit to a formal submission. I think a lot of the items that were raised, it'd be interesting to see what comes out of it. Some more training or some more standardization. But I do like the fact that if it ain't broke, don't fix it, and show me the data that tells me that we've got an issue instead of just causing an issue or raising that there is an issue. So that's really it. I'm happy to take any questions, or if you, Mayor, or Craig or Jason feel that we need to make a formal submission, or the balance of council, I'm happy to work on that if that's what people want. So thank you.
Thank you for attending. Councillors, Councillor Osborne has a question?
Well, just a comment. My personal opinion on this, I don't think there's any need for us to do any submission. I think we should leave it up to our appointed integrity commissioner to guide us on any changes that, I believe it's a lady, right? She?
Yes, her name's Suzanne.
Anything that she finds needs changes or recommendations, I think we should go with her opinions. She's a smart lady. And unless she raises an issue, I don't see why we should even bother opening the can. Thank you.
Councillor Moffat, do you want to reply to that?
Yes, this meeting was only attended by council.
Well, that's a problem.
So there was, as far as I could tell, there was no integrity commissioner or anything. They're obviously collecting that information as part of the consultation, and I don't disagree. Like, the comment that you made, Councillor Osborne, is that maybe the integrity commissioners need to get together across the province and make a submission that says we need to have standard rules and regulations, whatever it may be. And that's Miss Craig's, if she's asked, or through our Craig Jeffries, if that's something that would be done. But it's, as far as I could tell, it was just councillors, mayors, councillors that attended the meeting.
Okay. Any other questions? I guess I would agree with Councillor Moffat that so far we haven't got anything that's broken. But I would follow closely what some other municipalities bring forward, because obviously this request has come from somebody's beginning of complaints, and what didn't work somewhere else might hit us in the face one day. So I think it'd be useful for you to bring back once you see what other submissions are. That would be my take on it.
Yeah, and Mayor, I would say probably through AMO, this has kind of been run up the flagpole. So someone has gotten the attention of AMO, and maybe that then moved it across to the ministry. But absolutely, as we move across this consultation, and whatever I do hear back, I will share with council.
Okay. Thank you for attending. I know they rescheduled you several times. I saw that.
Yeah. Yeah, like I said, it was a telephone conference call, which was totally different than an actual Zoom call. Like, to go back into that mode was a little different for a lot of people.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
We have bylaw. Larry. Okay. So we have a bylaw, that bylaw number 2021-048, being a bylaw to repeal the appointment of Larry Bandy as a building inspector 1, bylaw enforcement officer for the corporation of the Township of Seguin, is hereby deemed to have been read a first, second, and third time and passed by council. And this is coming before us sadly because Larry has moved on and is no longer with the township. He has accepted a position elsewhere. So could I have a motion from Councillor Cole?
I will so move.
And seconded by Councillor Osborne.
A second, Mayor.
All in favor? Thank you. And we go now to council reports. So how about we start with Councillor Moffat today?
Thank you, Mayor. The last couple of weeks have been rather busy, a lot going on with the Muskoka Watershed Council. Not only from a council perspective, I've attended several meetings, either trying to set some governance matters and get that ship righted because they went from a committee to an incorporation over the last year. So we're just trying to work through that system. But also the Muskoka Watershed Council through the integrated water management, through the provincial government, has been charged with creating a community roundtable to gather information on the watershed and, try to propose means and ways to fix it. So, or at least to try to better manage it, I guess. So that is going to be a very busy summer. We had a meeting last week where I think 30 people were in attendance. Those that were interested, and I actually met someone from the township, that lives in our township, that is in a biologist, and reaching out to him to have a further follow-up conversation seemed to be a good resource to have that didn't know existed until he attended the meeting. So that's been a lot of my time over the last couple of weeks. We had our official plan steering committee on the 9th. We have another one this week. We had our ad hoc meeting. I mentioned about the Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing, the conduct, and attended a webinar by the Global Mail on energy equation as part of my co-chair for integrated community energy and climate action plans, ICECAP, and several emails on the Wellness Center, road safety, which I've spoken to Peter Kopish on, and I'm pleased that he told me that Highway 518 will receive some paved shoulders from Highway 14 out to Tally Hill Swords Road on both sides as part of their development or their resurfacing. So that was really good news to see that for bicyclists in the area that use that, walkers, whatever. It's a busy road. It's a higher speed road. So I was very pleased to hear that from Mr. Kopish last week. So certainly that's a good news story. That's, I think, pretty much it on my end. Thank you.
Thank you. You've been busy. Councillor Cole.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Not as busy as the previous week, but it's been busy. June the 16th, I chaired a long-term care ad hoc advisory committee in which we, each of these meetings, we get an update from our architects that we've hired to do the site plan of the West Prairie Sound Center site, and an update on our progress with the ministries. And it appeared at that point that we were going to have a meeting with the Minister of Long-Term Care, but that will not happen now because they just replaced her with a new one. So that's kind of put us back a step or two. But I expect that things will come along pretty nice because we're, in the absence of the meeting with the minister, we'll be meeting with the deputy minister. So that's all in hand. On the 18th, I was at the Archipelago Council meeting as a deputation with the resolution that we passed here some time ago, about a month ago, I think now, just endorsing what we were doing with the Belvedere and the West Prairie Sound Health Center. June 21st, this morning, we had a Belvedere Finance Committee meeting. And subsequent to that, I sent a letter on behalf of our committee Norm Miller, just advising him of our progress and inviting his input, and just to make sure that he was aware of what we're proposing, because we are getting close to meeting with the key staff at the ministry. And I gotta say, I worked with Andrea from the clerk's office in putting a resolution together that will be coming to us and all the municipalities as a next step. This has to do with eliminating our responsibility for beds at Belvedere and passing it on to the West Prairie Sound Health Center. So that will be coming forward very quickly. Andrea did a great job. Just compliment her. And then, of course, as you know, we just found out that we have a new Minister of Long-Term Care. I don't know whether this is good or bad, but it happens to be somebody that I worked with in Metro. So at least there's name recognition. So we hope something good comes of that. And then Wednesday evening, I have a Rose Point Trail meeting that I'm not looking forward to. That's it.
Thank you. Well, you can report great progress on the integrated trail strategy.
Yeah, I know, but will they like that?
I think some of them will.
I think so. I do too.
I think some of them are very supportive of it.
I'll need to get a briefing from Jason Dominique, before I go to the meeting.
Ask Dominique to bring you up to date. She's got a great little summary.
Okay, I will. Thank you.
Councillor Osborne.
Thank you, Mayor. I attended the last Wednesday, the 16th, EMS meeting. At that meeting, we had a very comprehensive report from Frank May, the manager of EMS. It was a PowerPoint presentation where he focused in on our community paramedicine process. There are now 7 paramedics involved in that program. And it's not just for seniors and ill people living at home, it's palliative care now we're getting into. He outlined some of the remote capabilities now with testing and diagnoses with doctors at the hospital. The good news is this program is fully funded by the Ministry of Health. So it doesn't impact the 50% levy to the municipalities. So the more they can expand it, the less 911 calls we have and the better off we are. So and it looks like the budget is on track. The sick days have been reduced, possibly because there was an allotment of money for PTSD concerns, etc. Counselors for paramedics that were having issues that were requiring more sick days. So those sick days have come down, which have always impacted the budget. So things are looking bright there. The only other thing I have to report, other than a bunch of emails I'm getting, is 2 things. I believe I requested a report from our Director of Public Works about the status of the Fowler backlog last meeting, and I didn't see it on the agenda this meeting. And number 2, we had a discussion at council regarding polling of our citizens in Seguin, the Pool Cultural Center. And it was established, I believe, that there was no reason to hold back on that. We could start that at any time. I would like to know what update there is available in launching that survey. That's all I have to report. If maybe you could get responses on those 2 items, Mayor Corby. Thank you.
Jason will reply to both of them.
Thank you, Your Worship. Councillor Osborne, I'll start with the Fowler update report from Public Works. We were unable to get all the appropriate information in time for this meeting, so I think at the next meeting you should expect that update. And your second point about surveying regarding the wellness center, in due course, we are working on the background work right now, and council will be advised as we get closer to launch.
Thank you.
Councillor Fellner.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. library board meeting last week. Was not able to attend, but I had a lengthy discussion with the CEO today, and things are moving along nicely in the library. There's been an effort to integrate library staff more into the township, and it seems to be progressing along nicely. And thanks to the CAO for taking that initiative. And we have a plan in place, hopefully to open when allowed, which is hopefully sooner rather than later, but for the time being, curbside at, I believe, Christie and Seguin. And you can booking appointments for computer work. Work is continuing on the trail system, on the Seguin Trail. There's been some good progress last week, working in from the Orville side of things. We have a strategy, or our Public Works department has a strategy in place to attack the wet section. And Park to Parks agreed to lease a piece of equipment for them to go in and try to get that straightened out. I expect that to be done next week, so all's moving along nicely. I have been getting a few calls about nuisance rentals in my area, one in particular. I've talked to Don Hood about it. He had some recommendations that I could give my my ratepayers. The need for complaints real time when the violations are occurring. We're going to continue to sort of watch this one island property if it continues to be a nuisance, and I'm going to ask for further steps to be taken. That I think is all I have for this one. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Milner. I will tell you, I'm getting lots of positive feedback on the part of Park to Park east of the Petro-Canada. People that haven't been on it for years are, word of mouth is spreading that it's passable. And so that's great to see. You and your team and Public Works have done an outstanding job on what people thought was impossible. So great work. It's good feedback. Councillor Collins, you're next.
Yes. Thank you, Mayor. Just in the last couple of weeks, I've had a regular meeting at DSAB on the 10th, but it was a very short meeting, one of the shortest we've had. And other than that, always venting calls from residents about short-term cottage rentals. Now, I know that one of the complaints he emailed you and I about it was on Turtle Lake, right? And anyways, I did respond and told him to again to call bylaw, and again to get a hold of his counselor, Councillor Osborne. But having said that, if they keep violating and they've already got their first letter, what's the second stage here? What do we do? If this continues, what do we do? Where do we shut it down? Or how do we shut it down?
I'm going to ask our CAO to respond here.
Thank you, Your Worship. It's a great question, Councillor Collins. And I don't have a definitive answer on what the exact steps are. I'd have to, sorry, I'm not prepared for that question right now, but I'd have to consult with our legal experts, but I'm happy to do so and provide some guidance to council at a future meeting with regards to next steps.
Okay, thanks, thanks, Jason. It's just that I have one that's causing a problem, just like Terry's got one right now that's an issue as well. So it'd be nice to know what our second steps, that we can tell our citizens moving forward. You know what I'm saying?
And if I can, Your Worship, you know, I think there's some key messaging that we are, you know, I know I'm relaying it on a nearly daily basis, as is Chief Hood, that, you know, that real-time response is important. We need to know when things are happening. This is one of the reasons we have the full-time bylaw pilot running. We want to be able to address these issues on a, you know, as they're happening, not days later. You know, I had a phone call this morning from someone who had a problem from Friday night, and, you know, my advice is phone bylaw. If it's nuisance related, phone bylaw. If it is illegal activity, you know, phone OPP. That, you know, don't wait till Monday morning to call the administration when bylaw is ready to be deployed at that moment.
All right, thank you, Jason. That's it for me anyways. Thanks,
The
Mayor.
other thing that I've been telling constituents is take a picture. Take a picture of the number of cars in the driveway. Take a picture, if you can, of the fireworks going off. Take a picture of how many people are on the dock. All of that is helpful to us, if you can do it. Councillor Moffat?
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to ask, is it something we should be putting some sort of banner or something on our front page of our website so people can, you know, maybe some education or something as to next steps or what to do if they encounter this? And I guess the other piece, maybe, do we have any stats from bylaw as to the increased number of calls? And I'm not asking for that answer now, but I'm wondering if that's something that we can, as part of that, Jason, follow up from Councillor Collins, if that could be maybe incorporated in there to see that we've incurred or we've got a lot of uptake on, you know, on that issue. Thank you.
Great points, Councillor Moffat. I think, well, I think Council knows, and we referenced it earlier today, that next week we'll have our new communications officer starting with us, and one of the key priorities that I'll have her working on will be some messaging to the community about short-term cottage rentals. And then with respect to the bylaw and increase in statistics, I wouldn't dare ask Chief Hood to be able to report on that off the tip of his tongue, but again, one of the key functions of the pilot program we're running this year is to be able to collect those statistics and help us understand better how we're resourcing things such as short-term cottage rentals. So as per our business plan that we presented during the budget, we'll be reporting back to council at key intervals. So stay tuned.
Councillor Collins, you have a question?
Yeah. Yes, thank you, Mayor. It is essentially working. I know for a fact of two residents that were doing short-term cottage rentals, Airbnb. One has already been sold after they received the letter. They got out of the business, and one is being sold right now. And we've stopped it completely just with that first letter. But it's the continuing where they're not, where they're just ignoring us and they're just continuing to carry on their business as usual. That's all. That's the ones that I'm concerned with. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Collins. Councillor Osborne.
Just a quick question on the same topic for Jason, Mayor. Jason, have you had, out of the number of letters, first letters you sent, have you had any more responses, or is it sort of stuck at 50% response?
Through your worship, I'm not exactly in a position, sorry, the short-term rentals was not an agenda item today, so I don't have all the statistics.
Okay.
Perhaps Chief Hood could elaborate a little bit, but I don't think we're in a position to be able to describe the specifics right now, but I see Don has turned his camera on, so perhaps he can contribute that I can.
Well, thank you, Jason. I just seem, it seems there's a bit of an appetite here for more information for council. Thank you.
Chief Hood, do you want to respond quickly? But as Jason pointed out, this wasn't an agenda item, and when we have solid statistics, we will bring them back. But Chief Hood, do you have any overview you can provide?
Sure, I can. Through you, Madam Mayor, to Council. The daily check-in, I just received a letter, has definitely slowed down. The percentage of people responding to the initial letter is actually probably in the range of 50+%. And then several have called, and as Councillor Collins indicated, we've had several calls where people have said, we're no longer doing this. So that gives us something to follow up on in the near future. One thing that as Councillor Collins and Councillor Fellner have pointed out, to tell people, and we tell people, you have to call us when this is happening. And I can honestly say that's not happening. And I'm not sure why. If people are afraid to call, we give them the after hours number. And then they call a couple days later and say, well, it's happened again. Well, you have to call. So hopefully that could be something we could put on the website to encourage people to report when in real time when it's happening.
Okay, thank you. We'll come back to council when the data is firm and we have lots of it. Councillor Collins, do you still have your hand up or another time? Nope. Okay. Okay, thank you. Councillor Finson, you're next.
I had a DSAB meeting with Councillor Collins. It was a quick meeting, but informative as usual. It was a really good meeting. Also had an RCAC meeting. I didn't attend it, but I caught up with Dominique afterwards. There was discussion about veterans banners like they have in Perry Sound for Seguin Township. It was actually a Rosso idea. It wasn't my idea. It was my husband's. And after talking about it, we thought, wouldn't it be nice if we go forward with it, that it was in Foley and Christie and Humphrey and Rosso, like the banners would be everywhere. So we could all work together as Seguin Township. So we would work with the recreation committees in Foley and Christie and Humphrey to see if we can get it done in the next year or two. We've got the information from Perry Sound from the high school, so we've got some information to work with. Dominique is checking out what it would cost to put them up and down, because you have to put them up and down and store them. Now the people pay for their own, so the veterans' families would pay, like for instance, if we put my father-in-law up there, you would pay for the banner yourself. The town would put it up like they do in Perry Sound and take it down in November to save them so they don't get ruined. So after that, I thought I had a museum meeting. I'm already got my computer on. Well, it's this Thursday, not last Thursday. I got a little ahead of myself. We had a cemetery meeting, which was also, it wasn't Zoom, it was on the telephone, which I find very difficult because there's a Dale and a Gail, and I always answer to Dale, and he's always saying that's me, and it's really hard. But it was also, it's a fabulous committee, and they've done so much work with the cemetery stuff. And I spoke with Andrea, was going to speak with Peter about the Foley work that's supposed to be done in Rosso. The little roadway there is falling apart. I've had on Facebook, there was some people commenting on the traffic in Rosso. And so I think Tom got a call because from one of the residents. And so they're putting these signs up here, I think at the top of the hill. Soon on 632, like today, I was walking today, I turned my ankle, and I turned it quite badly, and somebody was passing me, and I had to bend over because I couldn't stand up. Anyway, the guy turned around, came back, he stopped, and he said, "Are you okay? I saw you turn your ankle. Do you need a ride home?" I was walking the dog. I was like, oh my gosh, what a great community I live in. Even though people throw their garbage out the window, this guy turned around, came all the way back, and he was going to help. He was going to drive me home with a dog. I had the dog with me, and I said, no, I'm okay. Anyway, my ankle's not okay now, but it was at the time. And then I'm coming home, and it started to rain, and a truck went by and went right to the puddle and splashed me all the way up my body. He didn't even go over. He came as close to me as he could, and he splashed me. I don't know who he was, but boys, I didn't get a good look because the rain was coming down. But anyway, so that's my sad story today. But a really nice person stopped to ask if he could help me and take me home. And I thought it was very nice, and I did think what a great community we live in. I think that was all I have. Oh, I have, again, just calls about internet, about the speed of the traffic, those kinds of things. Other than that, and Facebook saying that I should do something about the fast cars. Just let Gail know and she'll do something about that. But I think Tom has the call, so Tom's taking care of that. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Facebook.
Thank you. On the internet, I just want to say that we've heard rumors, gossip, maybe, but some facts, that the wireless to home from Bell is being offered south of Rosso. So I would encourage anybody to suggest they call Bell. As I understand it, a Bell technician needs to come to your property to see if you actually get it, because an awful lot depends on where the rocks and the trees are between you and the tower. But I've heard of some people that have actually had appointments booked the first week of July. So that may be the Stanley House and Burgess Road towers that Matt Milligan told us were coming online. So that's a little bit of information you can pass on to people who call to say, call Bell and see if you're eligible for, it's called wireless to the home, so it's WTTH service. And make sure that they are getting the 5010 speeds. So,
Can I just say one little thing I forgot to say?
Sure.
I forgot to say that Mike got his permit to do the marina, and that was very exciting news. So that was exciting news that he's got the go ahead. Anyway, sorry. Thank you.
No, that's okay. I've spoken to him, and the chief administrative officer did send that out to all of council. So we'll be working with Mike to see when he go ahead. But I also sent a note to Kim Mullen congratulating her on her success. And she said, well, it's okay. The women won again, because I guess it was 2 women against 1 man. So that was her answer. So June 8th, I had an airport commission and a meeting, and we are just beginning a new strategic planning process at the airport. Also on June 8th, I had a long Zoom call with the management of Camp George and the camp director. Many of you know that Camp George is a very large camp on Maple Lake. They are planning to open with almost full capacity, but many of their campers and staff are international. So given today's announcement, it is unlikely that the international campers or staff will come at all, because they won't be able to come until at least June 21st. Then on June 8th, that was the night of the K-12 school presentation, and all I can say was disappointing, undersized, and you saw today's resolution. June 9th, as Councillor Moffat alluded to, we've had the official plan Heritage and Natural Lakes Roundtable, and we've got another one. June 10th was the biweekly information session that I attend with the health unit, Dr. Chirocco and team. And I have the statistics from last Thursday, but I believe they're out of date because they did so many clinics over the weekend. So anybody over 60 can book now for your second dose. And I don't know whether any of you are Facebook followers, but there's some pretty cute and impactful Facebook postings up there of what a youth clinic is like for the 12 to 17-year-olds. And so it walks them through what will happen at the clinic in a video format. And apparently they're getting very, very positive feedback on that. And we're tracking about at the level of the overall province for vaccinations. And you've seen a lot of outbreaks in the Nipissing area. We believe that a lot of that traces back to the jail, where there were a lot of cases. But Perry Sound's doing pretty well. And then on June 14th, we had the special council meeting of the pool. And that's my report. And we are moving along quickly. I have a motion that the council of the corporation of the Township of Seguin does hereby receive the board and committee agendas and minutes and the correspondence as presented on the agenda and addendum for the June 21st, 2021 meeting of council. Could I have a motion from Councillor Collins to that effect?
I so move the motion, Mayor. Thank you.
And seconded by Councillor Finston.
I second that.
All in favor? Motion that bylaw number 2021-049, being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of meetings of council, is hereby deemed to have been read a first, second, and third time and passed by council. Could I have a motion from Councillor Moffat
I so move that motion, Mayor.
and seconded by Councillor Cole?
I'll second that.
All in favor? Thank you. And I have a motion that the council of the corporation of the Township of Seguin does hereby adjourn this regular meeting of council at 6:15 p.m. to meet again on Monday, July 5th, 2021, or at the call of the mayor. Could I have a motion from Councillor Osborne
So move, Mayor.
and seconded by Councillor Felder?
Seconded with pleasure, Mayor.
Never have trouble with these motions. All in favor? So everybody have a happy Canada Day. Be safe. And thank you for tonight. We'll be in touch.
And just for your info, I will not be present at the July 5th meeting. I'll be absent.
Okay? Thank
Just,
you
you know.
for alerting us to that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night, all.
All in favor?
Good night.
Night, Art.